Hello, sweet, beautiful souls. Welcome back to Divine Alignment. Today we are talking about past lives. This is such a juicy topic, such a sought after topic, and a really jam-packed topic. So we are going to be diving into not only how to tap into your past lives, the significance, the meaning, and the implications for your life, for your healing, for your wealth, for your relationships, and all of that. But also my recent past life experience. So if you are new, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button, and let's dive right in. Okay, so past lives. This is a very sought after topic in spirituality. And I think that it sounds very fun. Go and review. It's like going to the movies. Like, let's go and review our past lives. However, there's a reason why I actually haven't talked about it until now, because I believe that past lives are not where you should start. So I want to really just begin by just putting that out there and unpacking that a little bit, because I think that a lot of people kind of can use going to past lives as like spiritual bypassing, or even ignoring, even if it's not spiritual bypassing, just ignoring like what is in your present reality right here, right now. So this could look like, there are so many things that past lives can give us illumination to, and to help us understand, and to help us heal in many ways. However, if you are going to past lives first without like looking at certain things and aspects of like your current day-to-day, like your diet and your relationships and your living situations and your work and your fulfillment and your passions and your purpose and how you're taking care of your body and all of these things, then like looking at those first is really important. There's so many things and so many aspects of health, of spirituality, of wellness, of healing, of growth. And before like diving into this realm, I think it's really important to do that stuff first. And I say this because I think also that it can actually be detrimental to, this isn't going to be obviously the case for everyone, but it can actually be detrimental to people's experiences. Like imagine going and like learning something about your your family or your past that was like really traumatic. Like, is that going to serve you? Is that going to serve you? Or it's like, imagine going to a scary movie when like you weren't prepared, you weren't like mentally prepared, right? Like, I'm not saying everyone's going to have traumatic past lives or experiences. Some are like really beautiful, but if you are just going like jumping in, diving in, like show me all my past lives without doing some of this inner work previously, there's going to be perhaps some things that could just traumatize, re-traumatize, or just make situations worse, because it's like opening a can of worms that like wasn't didn't need to be opened. Okay. And when we do that, we just create more problems, but like issues and things to heal that like we didn't necessarily, so it's like we didn't necessarily need to heal those. And that's where like a lot of this healing hamster wheel and personal development stuff, like if we're constantly seeking for things to heal, we're going to find more things to heal. So it's like, unless your intuition has told you so clearly, like, I really need to start with my past lives, which like if you're already dialed in with your intuition, chances are you've done some emotional work and some spiritual work. So if that's the case, trust that and please go with that. Now, with all of that being said, I do believe that past lives can actually provide a lot of illumination and a lot of insight and wisdom. And they can actually be like the missing piece of what you're seeking for your healing, for your growth, for your ascension, like whatever it is that you're seeking. For some people, it might be what, like the answers you've been needing, or for others, it may be like a puzzle piece in part of the whole. So everyone is different. I never want to say like, if someone tells you like past lives are the answer, like they could be, but like also understand you are a unique individual. Okay. So really taking that into account. But past lives can be really fascinating and be a really incredible place to look for understanding a lot of parts about ourselves. I'm going to share some of my past lives that I recently was shown. And for example, for me, I was able to see some themes. And that for me was really interesting because it was like, oh, no wonder why I'm working on this issue in this lifetime is because I've worked on it for many lifetimes. And seeing that and having that awareness is like, oh, so I get to end that cycle. I get to end that cycle in this lifetime. And that's really cool. And that's really empowering, I believe. Another aspect is with relationships, right? Like often if there are people in your life that you just feel like that soul connection to, or that soulmate, twin flame, all of these things. This doesn't have to be romantic. I have seen past lives of my mom and I, which that's an interesting one. That's an interesting one. I saw that in a past life, roles were reversed and I was her mother, which to me, I was like, oh, that explains a lot. And just all of these parts and pieces, some people will say that they've they've been with their partner for many lifetimes, and I think that's so beautiful, like when we can have that type of soul connection with someone, um and spend many lifetimes with them. I think that it can also help us repair relationships if we understand like the karma between us and another person, that maybe we've been playing it out for lives and lives and lives, and healing that in the past life will heal it in this life. And that's also why I believe another big reason of why we shouldn't just dive into past lives is like, you have the opportunity to heal your past lives. And so working with someone, or I was led through an experience, but like just making sure that it's a sacred experience. Okay. It's a sacred experience to review your past lives. Otherwise, it's like just going to the movies. Like, okay, that was good. That was great. But like, why are you doing this? Like, when you review a past life, you have the opportunity to change the past. You have that opportunity. It doesn't matter if it happened or didn't happen. You get to literally recode and rewrite and change the energy. And this is what I do with my clients for this life or for past lives. And when we have that awareness, it's like many people don't realize that we can actually do this. And it's a really like when you're in that state of reviewing a past life, or even just events in this life, in that hypnosis or guided state, you have the opportunity to rewrite, recode what happened. This is a very, very, very powerful state and a very powerful practice that if we're just reviewing a past life, that's why I mentioned like it can just re-traumatize. So having someone guide you through an experience of viewing and witnessing a past life, and now that was perhaps, again, they're not all traumatic, but if it was a traumatic one, rewriting that, healing that, cleansing that, clearing that, loving that, whatever it was. And because typically, if you are struggling with something, you're not and I never like absolutes, but if you're really struggling with something and you go back to a past life, it's most likely not going to just be like you sitting in a field with daisies, because that's not really going to provide insight as to why you're struggling. And so if you go back to a traumatic scene, allowing yourself to recode and rewrite this is it's one of the most powerful things I believe we can do, not only for ourselves in this life and in that life, but all of our past lives, future lives, and our ancestors, our current family, our like we don't even realize the implications that can take place here. Like this can happen globally, like past this universe. Like this can have such a big ripple effect by healing that. So I just want you to begin to understand like the gravity of what can happen and what you're actually tapping into. And you know, with that being said, like also think about that energy for like this life, like what you're doing right now, right here, like this can impact your past lives, your current life, and your future lives, right? Like I've started really having this awareness, which was something I never used to really think about, of like what I'm doing now is literally going to affect my future lives. And that's such an crazy perspective to really entertain and think about, but it's so true. It's so true. And it really makes you show up quite a bit differently in the world and your being and your body. And so having all of that in mind, I want to share some of my past lives. I'm going to begin with, so I wrote them down. I wrote them down because I actually had not, I had the experience, and then immediately after I wrote them down, which is a really powerful practice that I so recommend for really transformative experiences, whether it's plant medicine or meditation or a healing session that you do for hypnotherapy or any type of like deep energetic work. Writing it down afterwards is really powerful because like the next day I actually didn't, like I remembered snippets of it, but when I went back and like read my notes of it, I was like, whoa, I totally forgot all of these pieces and parts and aspects of it that were really like healing and helpful for me. And as I like went back and read it, like as part of the integration, which is also a huge part of these experiences, is taking time to integrate them, right? So, okay, I am going to preface, I had no intention of viewing my past lives. I've shared on Instagram that last month was like such a wildly transformative month for me. And yeah, it was, I'm actually still integrating. There's just so much that came through for me. And one of the really transformative things was this experience. I went into meditation in the evening, and my guides totally just led me through this experience. So I went into meditation with just the intention of grounding and going into meditation. And my guides and higher self led me through this experience of viewing my past lives. So they showed me all of these techniques and thing, and so we went there, and the very first scene that I was brought to was me as a mermaid. I was a mermaid, which that illuminated a lot for me because I was able to remember. I felt like a remembering when I saw myself as a mermaid. Felt like a remembering, felt like home. I know that sounds so silly, but that's what it felt like. And it illuminated, I mean, if you know me, if you see like my stories, I love going to the ocean, to the coast. I'm such a water child. I love being in and near the water. And I just always was like, oh, it's because I'm Scorpio or whatever, or, but like this was really cool for me to witness and see because it was like, oh, this is like literally encoded in my lineage. So this is interesting, and where we can get into like the nuances of past lives, and you guys are going to see how our past lives aren't limited to human lives. In fact, many of my lives weren't human lives, which is so funny because I had this psychic, this intuitive tell me years ago. She said, "You're such a," she counted how many lifetimes I had had. She said, "Wow, you're a really young soul." And I was like, this is so interesting because I've always, this is where, this is where things, our language can be really important, and like the thoughts that we tell ourselves and all of these things. But I have always said, and people have always called me an old soul. And so when she told me that, I was like, no, I don't believe it. I'm an old soul. I know it. I know I've lived many lifetimes. And that was so fascinating for her to tell me that, because now I realize, oh, I actually don't think I have lived many lifetimes. It's just I haven't lived many human lifetimes. The ones that I have lived have been very impactful. I've done a lot of deep work, and many of my lives were not human lives, so it makes sense. Which I don't know, is a mermaid considered a human life? I mean, I don't know, but my next life that my guides showed me, which again, this makes a lot of sense, that I was brought to, I saw myself as a star. I was a star, which I guess that's where the term star seeds actually comes from, but I never put it in that perspective that I was actually a star. I've always thought, oh, it means like you're from the Pleiades or an Arcturian or whatever. But no, I was actually a star, just a star in the sky. And that had a lot of lessons to me. What I was shown with that particular one was all I heard was as above, so below, the highest perspective and the deepest. And that's what I was revealed, as I was a star. And perhaps this is why I do have such a big perspective of things, and I'm able to see. I mean, if you've worked with me as a client, you see that like I have a very I see things from a higher perspective, and I'm able to see the energetics of things. I'm able to see the way things work in a way that many people don't. And so seeing that, receiving that, did this alter the course of my life to know that I was a star? No, but it was like it made me, it clicked some things for me. Like it just was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. It gave me that validation, right? So this is where it can be kind of cool, and like we don't always have to like go back to crazy traumas. And this is, I think, also where when you've done a lot of the work, not saying I'm complete, I certainly have my own work to continue to do. But I have done a lot of healing and growth and work on myself. So I think when you have invested this time and energy and attention into your growth and ascension, like there are just like these fun things that you get to see. And the next one, I was a pilgrim. And with this one, I just remember I was seeing people, I was leading them. I was a lead pilgrim, which now that I think about that, that's so fascinating. I didn't think about that until just now. In elementary school, did anyone else do this? We got like rolls. It was around, that's what it was for Thanksgiving. We were all we did like a play or something. This is so funny. I hadn't thought about this until just now. We did a play or something about the pilgrims and the oh, okay, it's all coming back to me. I don't remember what character I was, but I remember I wanted to be the lead pilgrim very, very badly. Very badly. So that's kind of funny. Um, and again, I don't remember which I'll have to go ask my mom, see if she has any photos or anything. But I remember we got to draw. I think we like drew on like we would draw a popsicle stick and that would tell us our role that we picked and got. And there was like the mom and the lead and the the animals, like so funny. So there's that one. Okay, these next two are very fascinating. There's an Egyptian. That's all that I had written in my notes, but I do remember snippets. This is why taking notes is really important afterwards, because I would have never remembered all of this, especially when you're kind of like in that state. It's hard to go back and like remember all of your downloads that came through. So the next one, this makes a lot of sense also why I've been feeling called to look more into my Egyptian roots. I've never felt, it's not something I've ever looked into, but the next one, okay, so for the first one, there was something about me guarding the pyramids. And again, I was a leader of some sort, but that's all I really remember is I was a leader and I was guarding them in some way. The next one, I was a sphinx, like those statues. So this is fascinating because I think it's fascinating. I was a statue all day. And then at night, I would come alive and I would go into the pyramids and I saw like the inside of these pyramids and in this experience that I had. And I also saw, which was really fascinating, all of these underground tunnels, but like more than just tunnels within Egypt. Like civilizations were living under the sand, which I've heard that actually is maybe true. I don't really know. If someone knows more about that, please let me know. But I saw this in my past life. It was when I was in that state, I was like viewing all of these underground, just like civilizations within Egypt. And as a sphinx, I would come alive and I would go and I would protect the pyramids and go into these underground civilizations. So that was really fascinating. And again, I just want to like add, has this like altered the course of my life? No. But I believe I had these experiences. I know I did because there's a reason in me sharing them with you all. And creating this because it is something I get asked about a lot is past lives. So okay, and then the last life that I saw, and this one was very brief and it was just a flash. I saw Jesus being tortured on the cross. And this is where the healing, this like makes me emotional. this is where the healing aspect and like really taking the time and knowing that we can make an impact. When I saw him being tortured on the cross and like knowing what I know now, I went beneath his feet, and I thanked him. I said, thank you for all you've done and sacrificed. And yeah, I mean, I could have, I don't know, maybe I was um part of the people torturing him. I don't know. But when I saw the flash of that life and I had the opportunity to rewrite that, that's what I knew I wanted to do. Was to hold his feet and tell him thank you. And regardless of what your views on religion and spirit, like that's irrelevant. It's like we have the opportunity to literally change the past. And who knows? Like, this is where karma can come into play too. Like, maybe for someone, like, you're having guilt that you can't figure out in this lifetime. And maybe it's because you punished and tortured Jesus, And so that's where it's like, yeah, maybe looking at past lives can be really important. And oh, I didn't think I was gonna get emotional about that. But it makes sense. It makes sense. And I know a lot of people have guilt and sadness and anger and these emotions that they're just harboring in the body. And like I've shared, there's many things in this life that we can look at as to what's causing that. And I can still think of a lot of things that in my life that I feel guilt or sadness about, or even anger. But healing something like that, I mean, I can't even imagine like the repercussions that it could give and make. And this is where also like it's really fascinating because I was never interested in history. I still am not. And as I've learned more about this really like, I don't even know what to call this. I mean, just spirituality, energetics, the fact that we can rewrite past. I'm like, then what is the past? I did a podcast. I don't know how long, it was a while ago, maybe like almost a year ago, on the Mandela effect. Um, and I think that is such a testament to what is real, what is the past, what is history. And also a friend shared with me his story. Like, what about her story? Right? Like, there's all of these nuances and things that come up. And what about her story? What about your story? And I mean, when we go to court, not when we go to court, but when there is like court cases and they have to get all of these eyewitnesses. Why? Why? Because one thing happened and multiple people saw different versions and iterations of the same thing. So if you're reading a textbook of history, whose perspective is that? Whose perspective? And who's to say, like, so with the Mandela effect, basically, like, the whole premise is like some people remember him dying and other people literally have no recollection of that. And so this is where I think like different timelines and different realities, and it's like, what really is history? What is it? What is it? And what I've come to, and again, this is my perspective, but what I've come to the conclusion of, and I don't even want to say conclusion because I'm shifting my beliefs literally daily, but what I've come to the awareness of is like the only thing that matters is how I want to remember it, how I want to view it, and the energy in which I give it, and the power in which I give it. So, do I want to remember it this way or that way? Like, what gives me power? What gives me strength? What gives me confidence? What, what, and I don't say power in a bad way. I mean, like, what makes me feel good? What makes me feel good? Because it doesn't make me feel good to think that I abused a person in a life. That doesn't make me feel good. That makes me feel guilty and sad and remorseful. So I'm going to rewrite that energy. And so I'm going to replay that scene and remember that I had that awareness and I said, I don't want to do this. And I'm going to go and love that person. And in this life, you can do that in this life too. And if this is something you really do like want to take seriously and or like really seeking to do, like please work with someone, myself or someone else, to guide you through these experiences of rewriting energy, rewriting the past, rewriting the present, rewriting the future. Because when you do this, as you know, last episode, time is not linear. You're rewriting your past, your present, and your future. And this is just so much more powerful than you can believe, than you can conceive, than you can even imagine. And so those are my past lives. And a theme that I saw, throughout all of these that I wrote down was that I realized that when my needs were met, I was of greater service to the whole, which was really interesting for me. And it made a lot of sense as far as just my health journey that I've been on. And I mean, it makes sense, I think, for anyone. Like when we don't feel good, we're not going to show up to help others and be of service. But this is where it's like, for me, I was able to see that that was a theme throughout all of my lives. And another thing that I received from my spirit essence, my soul essence, was that I came to redefine work as and play and really be part of this, like, I mean, we all came to be a part of this shift and awakening happening right now, especially if you're listening to this, especially if you're like here, of course you are, but like to change that perspective of like, we didn't come to work 9 to 5, not like our lives, wait for, and not that there's anything wrong with working 9 to 5, please don't interpret it that way. But for me personally, my energy doesn't facilitate or gravitate towards that. Learning I was a projector was one of the greatest in human design. That was one of the greatest like ahas and realizations and confirmations for me and my energy, because truly, like, I do a lot of really focused, potent work in a short period of time. And I learning I was a projector, like it illuminated so much of why when I was like working so many hours, I had such bad fatigue and adrenal issues and thyroid issues and health issues, really. And so having that just like awareness was incredible for me. And so like just redefining like work and living, really like living in alignment and creating a world in which we can feel good and really love our lives. And that's something I'm still I'm still learning. I mean, I do love my life and I do feel really grateful for my life, but like it's really something that I mean, I just had this experience too. So I'm like seeing this lesson and opportunity of like, how did I come here to help others with this and to shape the world in this of like, oh, we actually get to enjoy our lives. Like, why do so many people say TGIF? Like, why are we so excited for the weekend and hate 5 days of the week and love two? Like, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Why would we incarnate to suffer? So, like, I saw that I was coming here to redefine that. And I think that I'm sure a lot of projectors are showing people that, like, oh, like we can work less and impact more and do more and be more and become more. And I really think just like as a collective projector, whether you're a projector or not, like that whole model is changing and shifting a lot. I mean, look at what's happened, like going to work and these things, it's changed for a lot of people. There's like new opportunities coming and it's just changing and shifting. So, and that's a beautiful thing because we have to continue to innovate and move and grow and expand. That's the nature of the universe. And so, yeah, I think a lot of people are realizing like we came to live a life we love. And it's not a process that hope happens overnight, but it's something I really wish for you and for everyone. Because I think if everyone lived a life they loved, why would there be crime? Why would there be war? Why would there be like, why would there be any of these bad things going on? And if there still were, they would probably be handled very differently, much more peacefully, much more. That's just my perspective. I'm sure there's a lot of other things that go into that, but all that to say, past lives can be very important. And I want you to treat them as such. Treat them as sacred. Treat them as listen to your intuition. It's just like plant medicine. Like if you don't receive the call, don't do it. If you receive the call to do it, do it. If someone just tells you like you need to do this, tune in. Okay, tune in and ask your heart, your gut, your higher self, your guides, your angels, like ask yourself. Don't just trust that what Joe Schmo says about doing past lives is what you need to do. Or with anything in life, really, always trust yourself. But that being said, it can be wildly transformative, wildly healing, wildly illuminating. And so if you do feel called to explore them, like, and you do receive that call, like, oh, there's so much that can open up and unlock and shift. And if you don't need to, you don't need to. And also, like, remember, there's going to be like times in your journey. So maybe you're not meant to right now, but like you heard this and watched this because it was supposed to plant the seed for you to do it in a year or in 2 years or in a month, right? Like just being aware of that too is that things are always divinely timed, and trust that when you know, you'll know. When you need to know, you'll know. All right. So with that, my loves, I am sending you in all of your lives infinite love.